Jack never imagined. After 5 years of hard work as a top-tier support, carrying a few weak teammates all the way to the peak, and leveraging live streaming to turn them into a well-known first-tier adventure team, his career was flourishing. Yet his ungrateful teammates became arrogant. Not only did they fail to recognize the importance of support, but they even turned against him, expecting Jack to be endlessly grateful. Each time they paid him, it was less than 10% of the total earnings, barely enough to cover tool expenses. It could be said he was essentially paying to work, and today, having reached his limit, he declared his departure. He thought they might try to keep him, but instead, every teammate saw him as a useless burden. To them, all he did in battle was cast a few spells, and use live streaming tools, an insignificant presence. Upon hearing this, Jack didn't waste any more words. He headed to the guild to find a new team to join. A former apprentice spotted him and excitedly ran up. When Marina learned Jack was now free, she immediately invited him to join her team. She introduced Marina as a magic swordsman, Ava as a ranger, and Bella as a mage. None of them objected to Jack joining. They had no objections. Having an A-rank expert lead, the D-rank team was more than thrilled, and Jack was quite satisfied with them as well. Arriving at the dungeon entrance, their assigned task was to collect magic iron ore, but encountering monsters was inevitable. With Jack's guidance, it was hardly a challenge. As they stepped into the dimly lit cave, Jack immediately took out a detection lantern and walked at the front, acting as a minesweeper. This way, there was no worry about triggering traps. Next, he directed the swordsman to stay at the rear, to prevent ambushes. Soon, they encountered a few monsters ahead. Seeing Jack's tactical approach, they were dumbfounded. Skipping incantation casting was already impressive, but the most astonishing part was his ability to cast 3 buff spells simultaneously. It was clear how incompetent his previous teammates had been. Moreover, Jack was incredibly meticulous. He inquired and memorized their dungeon exploration habits, and reminded them to check their weapon durability. Under his leadership, they encountered the second wave of monsters. With flawless coordination, they eliminated them in an instant. Seeing the mage use a powerful spell that nearly drained all her mana, Jack casually stacked a strong mana regeneration buff. It was a rare spell, exclusive to Crimson Magic mentors, highly sought after by first-tier teams. They realized the truth. They were as excited as if they had discovered treasure. Additionally, he also mastered alchemy. He could craft many tools himself, and Jack was generous in sharing his knowledge with them. Before long, they reached the 4th floor, their target. They needed to defeat the lizard monsters first before mining. Since magic swords consumed a great amount of stamina and mana, after 10 seconds, the wielder would enter a weakened state. But with Jack here, it was effortlessly resolved. Afterward, they mined a significant amount of ore, but upon counting, they found it still insufficient. Jack suggested, why not descend to the 5th floor and defeat the final boss? By reaching the 6th floor, they would find plenty of ore. Since the 3 had no experience, Jack clarified that they wouldn't need to take action. All they needed to do was leave it to him. Before starting, he activated his live streaming tool. Suddenly, he realized they needed a team name. Before Jack joined, they had been too weak, so they hadn't officially registered as a team. Now that they had 4 members, Marina instinctively thought of 4-leaf clover. Jack was the 4th leaf, symbolizing luck. Thus, the decision was made. Jack stacked 3 buffs on himself, pushed open the door, ready to solo the boss.
Paralyze, slow, venom, collapse, blindness.
すごい。5つの魔法を瞬時に。
無駄だよ。もう目も見えていないだろう。グラビティ
With these debuffs applied, even a deity wouldn't be able to withstand it. Finally came the reward phase. Just the treasures from the loot chest were worth more than his entire previous year's salary. Teammates who had worked together for 5 years looked down on the support master Jack, so they teamed up to kick Jack out of the team. They thought they could still defeat the wild monsters on their own. Little did they know that after losing their backbone, their combat effectiveness was far worse than before. Even when dealing with the 4th-tier monsters as usual, they were still beaten back step by step. Just a slight moment of carelessness. The mage was nearly torn to pieces by the monster. After escaping the danger, they were still shifting responsibility onto each other, even selfish enough not to give up healing potions. This almost sent the mage to meet the heavens. In contrast, under Jack's leadership, the 3 apprentices finally experienced the joy of effortless victory. Jack was unanimously elected as the captain, and the monster hunting livestream, the number of viewers had already exceeded 6,000. Now they were somewhat famous locally. Meanwhile, after their defeat, they blamed everything on the newly recruited ranger. How could he even fail to prepare the support items for them in advance? He couldn't tolerate such treatment. He immediately quit, no longer bothered to communicate with this group of ignorant fools. At this moment, the 3 saw the video above. They learned that Jack was thriving. Their eyes were filled only with jealousy and hatred, not a trace of regret. In short, they still hadn't realized Jack's importance. Meanwhile, Jack had already begun celebrating. In the shadows, a man adorned with gold jewelry was watching them, harboring intense hostility towards Jack. At this moment, Jack had already noticed being followed. He had to deal with it. He turned directly into an empty alley. The man, angry and arrogant, ordered him to leave 4-leaf clover because he had mentioned it countless times, wanting to join their team out of goodwill. Jack flatly refused and turned away. Seeing this, he was enraged and tried to resort to violence, but Jack countered, sending him tumbling down, leaving him in a peaceful slumber. 2 days later, he personally selected a mission. Since the first battle was as easy as child's play, he decided to choose something more difficult to help them accumulate combat experience. As soon as he said this, the guild immediately introduced a C-rank mission to him to collect 3 raw stones from Yumu Falls. He heard that a large number of monsters had migrated to the local forest, so the danger level was relatively high. But upon hearing there were high-level monsters to fight for free training, he discussed it with the other 3, and they agreed to set out immediately. Later on the way, they found out the 3 had been harassed by the man for a long time. Clearly, he was just someone who took shortcuts, yet he insisted on acting self-righteous. Back to the main matter. Considering the place they were about to go, there would likely be many unknown monsters, so they had to make thorough preparations in advance. They started a live stream before entering the forest. If they encountered danger, the guild's audience would be able to know immediately and send reinforcements. Since the monsters this time mostly preferred ambush attacks from behind, they switched to having the swordsman at the front. As for Jack, he had plenty of survival techniques and possessed a remarkably keen perception. Walking in the rear, he hardly had to worry about ambushes. They finally reached the waterfall where the raw stones were produced. Just as they were about to start gathering, a noise suddenly came from a distance. Looking in that direction, they discovered it was the dock demon. Even Jack was shaken. That was a monster normally found deep within a labyrinth, a high-level monster that shouldn't appear here. Jack immediately stepped in front of them, declaring that he would buy them time to escape. However, all 3 refused to run, determined to stay and fight alongside Jack to the end. With no other choice, Jack had to cast buffs on them and face the battle head-on. At this moment, Jack began to suspect the opponent was a special entity. Otherwise, it wouldn't have so many resistances to negative effects. Realizing that their current methods made victory unlikely, Jack gritted his teeth, telling Marina to hold on for a bit because he was about to stop holding back. Seeing this, the other 2 quickly joined the fight, giving it their all, barely managing to hold the monster at bay. Jack raised his hand and unleashed a self-created super tier spell, instantly dealing 10,000 points of true damage to the monster. The 3 disciples were utterly shocked. Who could believe that Jack was a support? Taking advantage of the monster's restricted movement, the mage summoned a lightning strike, reducing the monster to critical health. Finally, Marina successfully finished the battle, making it a thrilling but ultimately safe victory, and the entire process was streamed live. Many people in the city watched in excitement, discussing Jack's never-before-seen magic. Only former teammate Lucas was fuming with rage. At the same time, although the 3 initially resisted the retreat order, Jack was still quite satisfied with their performance, thinking they had more potential than his previous team. Afterward, under Jack's guidance, they quickly grew, their teamwork becoming increasingly seamless. Most of the time, they crushed enemies with overwhelming firepower. Their active participation gained them countless followers over the month. They were soon summoned to the Adventurers Guild. Jack guessed it was related to the demon mission at the docks. After all, the guild had miscalculated the danger level of the mission, assigning a B-rank commission to a D-rank team. This mistake could damage the guild's reputation. At that moment, the guild master arrived, greeting an old acquaintance warmly. However, he couldn't help but joke that if he were patted anymore, his bones would break. Jack analyzed that monsters typically couldn't leave dungeons, as their lives were bound by dungeon magic, unless a large number of monsters were about to go berserk and collectively attack human cities. The dock demon was a sign of impending danger. As soon as he said this, the guild master realized the severity of the issue. He sincerely apologized to them, admitting the guild's mistake had put them in danger. After a guild discussion, the 3 disciples were promoted to C rank. Jack was elevated to A rank, and they were awarded 100 gold coins as mission compensation. Additionally, the guild master personally compensated them by offering a white gold coin, effectively doubling their rewards. Their dreams were now within reach. Jack openly shared his dream to challenge the deepest part of the colorless shadow dungeon. Upon hearing this, his team nearly dropped their jaws. That dungeon had never been conquered in history, and before entering it, one had to obtain special national permission. The team needed to be at least top tier in strength. In short, it was an extremely difficult challenge. Even so, the 3 were still willing to work hard alongside Jack. Meanwhile, Lucas, who had been declining for some time, grew angrier, blaming Jack for everything. At that moment, another former teammate suggested that they bring Jack back, assuming that offering more money would surely make him grateful. The plan was to deduct the money from the reclusive mage.
ここは一つ、僕たちが折れてやるのもいいかもしれないな。これまでのことは水に流してやろう。
As they prepared to check in with the guild, Marina, frequently seeing Jack cheerfully chatting with the guild receptionist, became jealous and couldn't help but complain. When Bella pointed it out, Marina hastily denied it. Later, when they arrived at the guild entrance, they saw Lucas, looking smug. Jack told his 3 disciples to go inside first. Seeing Jack's indifferent expression, Lucas directly sent him a team invitation, confidently stating, "Remember when Jack used to say he wanted to challenge the Abyss Gate at the World's Edge? But entering the colorless Shadow Dungeon requires National Guild approval, and the team must be at least top tier. Returning to the old team would benefit him more." However, Jack rejected him outright. Seeing his plan fail, Lucas tried to guilt trip him, claiming that Jack's departure was the reason for their downfall, conveniently ignoring how they had belittled Jack before.
お前、あの駆け出しの女どもに騙されてるんだぞ。お前を便利に使って。
俺を便利な雑用扱いしてたのはお前らの方だろ。じゃあな、サイ。
いい気になるなよ。絶対に後悔するぞ。
Ava never expected the elite monster before her, like Venom itself, to possess such terrifying strength. Even Marina was struck into deep sleep with just one move. Jack, determined to protect his 3 disciples, planned to sneak behind the monster and launch a surprise attack, imbuing his weapon with light and fire, elements that counter dark-type creatures. Just as he was about to succeed, the monster swiftly turned and cast a curse. Jack, undefeated in every battle, instantly fell like a severed kite, crashing to the ground, motionless. At that moment, Marina regained consciousness and joined the fight, but her efforts were futile. Until the monster unleashed a multi-layered chant, with an overwhelming barrage of attacks. Resistance was nothing but a meaningless struggle. In a crucial moment, Jack finally revived, using a light shield scroll to block all the magic.
よくも俺の仲間を傷つけてくれたな。ワンサウザンドスネパラライスのコラプスブラインドレスベノム1000グラビティ
第4海底級精霊魔法ターンアンデッド。
Jack never expected that his bad teammates, who used him and kicked him out of the team, would still show no remorse, and now attempt to extort Jack for the spoils of the expedition. Outraged, Ava stood up for Jack. Lucas went so far as to insult the elf Ava in front of a live broadcast camera. This completely enraged Jack, making him determined to settle the score with them once and for all. In the end, the entire incident was broadcast live. The elves watching the stream were also infuriated. Lucas' team essentially collapsed. The Fairy Union and the guild headquarters both issued protests. Faced with such unrepentant individuals, the guild leader warned them that they had already provoked the wrath of the elves. Now, they must publicly apologize in a live broadcast, or risk losing their adventurer qualifications. And worse, they could even be expelled from the country. Upon hearing this, Lucas arrogantly claimed that only his team could carry out the investigation mission, as no other A-rank team was willing to challenge the Shadow Dungeon. Moreover, the only reason Jack could enter the dungeon was because his former teammate's status had lifted the seal.
つまり、僕たち A ランクパーティーがいなければ。
全く困らないな。お前たちボンクラと違ってクローバーは十分な成果を上げている。今回の調査依頼を受けている間、クローバーは暫定 A ランクパーティーとして登録される。何の問題もない。
なんだってあいつらが A ランク。
しっかり反省して配信用の謝罪文でも考えるんだな。
Jack never expected that the villain who kicked him out of the team, in order to completely control Jack, actually put a slave collar around Bella's neck. As long as Lucas held the remote control, Bella would obey his every command, using this as leverage to force Jack back into the team as a mere tool. But the next second, karma struck. The labyrinth suddenly collapsed. Caught completely off guard, they fell and fractured their bones. Surrounded by orcs, Jack decisively took out the only teleportation scroll, hoping to take his companions away. Seeing Lucas holding Bella hostage, the repentant mage Lisa suddenly charged forward, eliminating the hidden threat for the protagonist and his team. It turned out Lisa had taken over the support role after Jack left. Understanding the hardships Jack had faced, soon, the 5 of them arrived at a wooden cabin. An enthusiastic old lady stepped out, inviting them inside as guests. Jack naturally refused. Upon hearing this, the woman dropped her disguise. The surrounding scene suddenly became eerily lifeless. The house rapidly expanded in size. The old lady transformed into an elegant, commanding woman. It turned out this place was the land of the dead. At nightfall, it would drain people's life force and magic. Jack gritted his teeth, knelt on one knee, declaring that one day, they would meet again. At the end of her fate, hearing this, the witch's expression became solemn. She leaned in and whispered back. She would never forget Jack's words. Thus, Jack and his companions narrowly escaped disaster. But a sinister mark appeared on their bodies. Jack explained that the mark was likely the witch's curse, one that could never be removed. Lucas, who once used him as a tool, actually used illegal artifacts to become an undead. Not only did his power increase, he also gained an immortal body. Even if his body was destroyed, it could reconstruct itself. Common elemental magic had no effect on him. Jack had no choice but to try using the mark left by the witch. Confident Lucas didn't even try to dodge. After all, even if he was injured, his body would heal back.
不死身の体で好きなだけ味わうがいい。
俺
とどめはいいの？
死ねる体ならもう死んでいる。
僕に何をした？
Jack kept damaging Lucas's body continuously, and the body kept repairing itself. Though he couldn't die, Lucas constantly felt pain, and that was exactly what he deserved. Jack began treating the mage Lisa. Her injury had been caused by Lucas's demonic sword. The existing potions and healing spells were ineffective. Clever Jack used the mark instead. He disrupted the bleeding effect on her body. Surprisingly, it actually worked. It turned out the mark left by the witch wasn't a curse, but a dark magic containing many skills. This gave Jack an epic level boost, and it also lifted Bella's slave curse. Lisa, as Lucas's accomplice, would still be exiled even if not executed. However, considering that previously, she had been gathering evidence of Lucas and the others' crimes, a lighter punishment was decided. The guild leader announced the revocation of her adventurer license, and banned her from registering again for a year. She sincerely apologized to Jack, and also thanked him for being able to forgive her. In the end, she joined Jack's Clover team.